A woman in Long Island was apparently drugged and locked in a hospital psych ward for 8 days. Because first police and then doctors would not believe that her career was real. They wouldn't believe her story. Now the twist is, this woman was also, you guessed it, African American. Now what happened? Well, a 32-year-old former Citigroup banker. Now, she worked on Wall Street, okay? This banker by the name of Kam Brock drove her BMW through Harlem. Now, while she was driving through Harlem, the NYPD pulled her over and accused her of being high on marijuana. So they pulled her over and it immediately accused her of being high on pot. They arrested her, they didn't arrest her, but they impounded her car, searched it, they found no marijuana. There was no marijuana in the car. None. They did not find any trace. However, they did take her car. So the next day, she went to try and get her car back. And then she confronted officers about her treatment. Apparently, that's mistake number one. Because after she confronted these NYPD officers about her treatment during that stop, which seems to me to be racial profiling, during that confrontation, she was forcibly sedated, cuffed, and sent to Harlem Hospital. On arrival, she was locked up in the psych ward as a, quote, emotionally disturbed person. Now, her story, of course, doesn't end there. Talking about her story in the New York Daily News, she said, quote, "Next thing you know, the police held on to me, the doctor stuck me with a needle, and I was knocked out. I woke up to them taking off my underwear and then went out again. I woke up the next day in a hospital robe." Now, this gets a lot worse. Now, while she was at the mental hospital, she had to get forced injections of very powerful sedatives, including doses of lithium, okay? And this is according to medical records obtained through her suit. Now, she's suing the city for this. And these documents, these medical records, show that she had been given sedatives and forced to take lithium. Now, she tried to explain to the police and the doctors who she was. "I work on Wall Street. I drive a BMW. Obama follows me on Twitter." Now, it doesn't seem like that'd be an important thing, but nonetheless, that's what she told them. They told her, "You're delusional. You're bipolar. We have to continue to medicate you until you come back to reality." So they sedated her and kept her in treatment for more than a week. Now, the New York Daily News also was able to gain access to her treatment plan, which read, quote, "Objective. Patient will verbalize the importance of education for employment and will state that Obama is not following her on Twitter. Patient weaknesses, inability to test reality, and unemployment." Stop for a minute there. An African-American woman driving through Harlem in her BMW, pulled over by the NYPD, and accused of being high. Has her car taken. No drugs were found. Okay. Now, already, huge red flags. That's racial profiling right there. That's a great example. They looked at her. You think they would pull over a white guy driving a BMW through Harlem? As if a white guy from Wall Street would ever go near Harlem, but that's a different point. They pulled her over. Obviously, that black woman, she was either an easy mark, which African Americans, minorities, tend to be easy marks when it comes to police departments. Ferguson, the DOJ report proves that. They're an easier mark for police departments, for the corrections industry. So they assume, I would think that they assumed that this woman driving through Harlem, BMW probably wasn't hers. or she has to be high on something. So we pull her over. She's got to be high on drugs. She's a black woman driving a BMW through Harlem. Of course she has to be on drugs. So we're going to take her car. Oh, that's a shiny, nice little BMW you got there. Too bad it's got weed in it. We'll just take that. Then she goes to try and get her car back, her property, that she did absolutely nothing wrong. That gets taken, and she tries to go and get it back. And they don't believe her. And then they take her to a mental hospital and forcibly inject her with sedatives. Say that, well, obviously, you're not who you say you are. You're obviously, that BMW must not be yours. You obviously don't have a career on Wall Street, and Obama doesn't follow you on Twitter. There's the assumptions. All those assumptions are based on the fact that she's black. It has to be. There's no other reason. They assume she was unemployed and uneducated. Here's a smart, successful African-American woman who worked on a career at Wall Street. She worked at Citibank. A very respected job in Wall Street. And they assume, no, you're delusional. Obviously, no black woman can ever work on Wall Street or ever be successful. That challenges our stereotypes. NYPD. She has an inability to test reality, and she suffers from unemployment, which isn't reality at all. You see, they could have actually checked her stuff, did a background on her. They didn't even do that. They could have verified all of that stuff, but they didn't. They decided not to. She worked at Citibank last year. She works somewhere else now. Okay. She works at another bank or another financial institution, but she used to work at Citibank. And yes, Barack Obama does follow her on Twitter, or at least his campaign staff does. Which, you know, politicians rarely ever run their own Twitter accounts, lest they get in trouble, such as Anthony Weiner, for example. But nonetheless, that's verified. The car was hers. And yes, she did work on Wall Street. But that's not the worst part of this. Well, actually, maybe it is. But there's a final slap in the face. The hospital where she was forcibly treated at and sent to decided to send her a $13,000 medical bill. So they take her against her will, put her in a mental hospital, put her through 8 days, an 8-day ordeal of what could only be described as hellish conditions. And then they charge her for it. Racism doesn't exist. Not at all. We have a black president. Stop talking about race. Stop dividing us by racial lines. You're just being a race baiter. That's what they're going to tell me. That's what the comments are going to show. You're just being a race baiter. You're being a race hustler. How dare you? Why you got to divide America? I'm not dividing America. It's stuff like this that divides us. It's institutional racism. It's built into the system. If you're out there defending the NYPD for racial profiling, you're out there defending this. That's what you're defending. Do you feel good about defending this practice? Oh, well, it actually led to more arrests of bad people. No, it didn't. Look at the NYPD reports. Look at the reports about how racial profiling, how stop and frisk, for example, did not work. They targeted more African Americans. for no reason, based on the color of their skin. And that's where this came from as well. If you don't believe there's a problem of racism in America, you are ignorant. You have no idea what's going on, and you are living in a bubble that maybe nobody can penetrate.